we didn't actually graduate, right?
Oh, that is the best part. They actually give you a degree.
You don't even have to go to class?
No, you just put that degree on your resume and it looks great.
Can you help me figure out what I'm gonna say?
Yeah, we should work on it together.
Ever wish you could just crack the code of college admissions? Have that secret formula to guarantee a spot at your dream school. Well, that's the kind of promise that's generating a lot of buzz around Jamie Beaton and his company, Crimson Education. We've got a whole bunch of articles here about Crimson's methods, Beaton's background, the whole high-stakes world of college admissions. So, ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's unpack it.
All right, so Crimson Education, they're really shaking things up with these personalized coaching programs. We're talking starting college prep as early as age 11. Some families investing, get this, upwards of $200,000 for the whole shebang. SAT prep, essay writing, even strategizing extracurriculars. They cover it all.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Really?
And then there's Beaton himself, the founder. Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, the guy's got degrees coming out of his ears. But get this, he worked at a fast food joint in high school. Talk about a started from the bottom story, right?
Quite a contrast.
It really is. One of his students even compared him to Steve Jobs. So that leaves us wondering, is this real genius or just really, really good marketing? And what can we, even those of us who aren't, aiming for the Ivy League, what can we learn from all of this?
You've hit on something important there. Crimson Education, it's just one piece of this much bigger, I guess you could say, puzzle. This whole college consulting industry, it's exploding, and it really makes you think about the pressure and anxiety students are facing these days.
It's true. It feels like everyone's gunning for those top-tier schools.
Exactly. And with acceptance rates at these Ivy League schools, well, they're practically through the floor. Many families, they see getting into these prestigious universities as like the golden ticket, right? So it's not that surprising that demand for these services, pricey as they are, is going through the roof.
Makes you think about that varsity blues scandal a few years back. Parents were going to crazy lengths, even breaking the law.
Yeah.
Just give their kids an edge. See any parallels there?
Yeah. It's definitely something to think about. Now, there's nothing to suggest Crimson Education is doing anything illegal. But that varsity blues scandal, it really showed how far some people will go for that coveted acceptance letter. Really highlights those ethical gray areas that pop up when the stakes are that high.
For sure. Okay, so we've got this backdrop of intense pressure, a booming industry, but let's zero in on Crimson Education's approach. SAT prep, help with those all-important essays, even guidance on extracurriculars. What makes their method different?
One of the things that really jumps out about Crimson's strategy is this idea of finding your spike, as Beaton calls it. Basically, it's about zeroing in on a specific passion, something you're really great at, and they encourage you to start early, like middle school early.
Interesting. So it's like finding your niche, that one thing you're really passionate about.
Exactly. And then they help you build this whole narrative around it, showcasing your dedication, your expertise. It kind of taps into that whole debate about whether colleges prefer well-rounded students or those who really specialize.
Yeah, there's always that debate, right? Like, do you want to be good at a bunch of things or the absolute best at one thing?
Right. And Beaton seems to be banking on this trend where specialization, becoming kind of a mini expert in something, is really valued by colleges, especially elite ones.
So it's not just about being in a bunch of clubs. It's about being really into that one thing.
Exactly. Like, instead of just playing the cello and volunteering at the animal shelter.
You're like Yo-Yo Ma AD. You're leading protests against animal cruelty.
Exactly. It's about making your activities tell a story, right? Making your application cohesive, memorable.
Makes sense. And Beaton also talks a lot about the importance of social justice work. He even goes so far as to say that having a social conscience is basically a requirement for Ivy League schools these days.
Yeah, it's definitely true that colleges are really looking for students who care about making a difference, who want to make the world a better place. It's part of this bigger trend in higher ed towards creating engaged citizens.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit, because I can already hear some people listening and thinking, so I have to start a nonprofit and cure cancer to get into a good school.
Right, like it's some impossible standard. And it's not quite that simple. I mean, it's great if you're genuinely passionate about a cause, but there's a difference between authentic engagement and what some people call performative activism.
Oh, so you're saying it's not enough to just do things that look good on your resume.
Exactly. It has to be genuine, something you really care about.
So how do you show that? How do you show you actually want to make a difference and not just, check a box?
It really comes down to authenticity, Find a cause that resonates with you, something you actually care about. And it doesn't have to be this huge splashy thing. Maybe you volunteer at a local soup kitchen or tutor kids in your neighborhood. It's about putting in the effort, showing that you're invested in something beyond yourself.
So it's less about the what and more about the why. Okay, I got to ask about something else Beaton talks about. The SATs. He makes it sound like if you just put in the time, like training for a marathon, you can ace it. Is it really that straightforward?
Well, there's some truth to the idea that practice helps, right? Like any standardized test, there are tricks and strategies you can learn. But to say that the SATs are the be-all and end-all of college admissions, that's a bit of a stretch, don't you think?
Yeah, it's like saying the only thing that matters in a movie is the special effects.
Right. There's so much more to it than that. Your essays, your recommendations, your extracurriculars, even just, those intangible qualities that make you stand out.
And let's not forget, not everyone has access to expensive tutors and prep courses, right?
Absolutely. Access and opportunity, they play a huge role in all of this. A lot of Beaton's clients, they come from privileged backgrounds with resources that a lot of students simply don't have. And that brings up a bigger question about fairness and equal opportunity in education, doesn't it?
So what does this all mean for those students who don't have, a trust fund to spend on college admissions?
Yeah.
Are they just out of luck? Is the system rigged against them?
I wouldn't say that. It's easy to get caught up in these stories, like Crimson Education. But it's important to remember they represent a very small percentage of students. Most people going through this process, they don't have access to these kinds of resources.
That's good to hear, at least. But then what can those students do if you're not part of the Crimson Club, so to speak? How do you improve your chances?
Well, the good news is that a lot of what Beaton talks about, it's not exclusive to his clients. Hard work, dedication, finding your passions, presenting yourself well. These are things anyone can do. It doesn't matter what your background is or how much money you have.
So it's like finding your own spike, to use his term, but without the pressure of having it all figured out by, sophomore year.
Exactly. It's about discovering your strengths, your interests, and sharing genuine enthusiasm. Colleges, they don't want robots who are good at everything. They want to see that spark, that passion.
And what about this social justice aspect? Do you really have to be, starting your own charity to stand out?
Not at all. It's really about showing that you care about something bigger than yourself. Maybe you volunteer, maybe you get involved in your community. The point is to align your actions with your values, to show that you want to make a difference.
So to bring it all back to our listeners, it sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all answer here, no guaranteed path to getting into your dream school.
Right. There are so many paths to a good life, and a college acceptance letter, while it's important, it's really just one step along the way.
Well said. This deep dive into Crimson Education, it's been pretty eye-opening. We've covered the strategies, the pressures, the whole question of fairness and access.
It's a complicated issue, and it's easy to get lost in all the noise. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to focus on yourself, on your own growth. Find your passions, be authentic, and remember that your self-worth isn't tied to a college application.
Couldn't agree more. And to our listeners, as you navigate this crazy world of college admissions, we'll leave you with this. What really matters to you? What kind of impact do you want to make? Those are the questions worth thinking about. Whether you're aiming for the Ivy League or forging your own path,